This is the biggest consumer decision of our lifetime. The way we as a nation decide to vote on the 23rd of June will reverberate for generations. Now, if you'd made up your mind how you're going to vote, great, I don't want to change it. If you haven't, I'm not campaigning. But I have had a mailbag full of people asking me, please just give us the facts. So what I want to do is make this short video to try and put this vote in context to help you decide what the right vote for you is. Okay, so let's get the big one out of the way to begin with. What's going to happen if we leave the EU? I don't know. There are no facts. This has never happened before. It's unprecedented. Anybody who tells you they know what will happen if we leave is a liar. You will have read in the newspapers and seen on the television politicians of both sides who seem to have crystal balls. The economy is going to be destroyed if we leave. We're going to be overrun with immigrants if we stay. We don't know. We can't know. Even after this vote, we'll never really know what the right answer was because we'll only get one outcome. So, how do you solve that conundrum to decide how to vote? You do a risk assessment. There are lots of things people care about in this referendum, whether it's sovereignty, immigration, or the economy. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every one of those in this video, but you can read more of my thoughts on them in the article. For obvious reasons, I'm going to pick the economy for our risk assessment, but the principles that apply here apply to every other issue, because in every other issue, we're dealing with uncertainty too. So the first big thing to think about in the economy is there are two main things that are going to have an impact. The first is the fees that we pay to the European Union, and the second is the economy itself. Well, the fees we pay to the European Union, they're £17 billion, but after the rebate we get and the money that the EU spends on the UK, the net cost is just over £8 billion. It's important to contrast that to the overall size of the UK economy, roughly £2,000 billion. And what are we talking about if we leave the EU? Well, you've got one side saying we'll tank by 6%, the other side saying the economy will be boosted. Putting this in perspective, just a 1% change in the economy is £20 billion. The net contribution to the EU is £8 billion. So a 5 or 6% shift here dwarfs the cost of the fees. So big picture, while there's political principle about the fees we pay to be a member of the EU club, actually, compared to shifts in the size of our economy, it isn't so significant. But mainly, what I'm trying to say is, actually, it's all about the economy when you're deciding about the economy. Look, there is no question that it is riskier for us to leave the EU than it is to stay. Now, before you think, hold on, you said you weren't campaigning. I'm not. I'm using risk in its true sense as a measure of variance, a measure of uncertainty. And there's a much greater range of potential possible outcomes if we leave than if we stay. Staying isn't certain. The future is always an open book. But leaving, well, who knows what will really happen? In the economic terms, at the top end, well, hopefully would become a nimble tiger economy, unfettered by EU regulations, able to pounce on opportunities, be speedy and quick and grow. At the other extreme, we could be shunned by our former EU partners who won't come to a trade agreement because they want to punish us so nobody else leaves, and we're then too small to deal with anybody else, left on the sidelines, and we languish. Truth, of course, will be somewhere in between the two. And if you ask me honestly, I think the bias is more towards if we leave, it will be detrimental for our economy. Now, that's a bias on a balance of probabilities. It doesn't mean it will happen. It just means I think that is perhaps the more likely outcome, certainly in the short run, for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. After that, things will likely move to an equilibrium no matter what we do. So you have to weigh up how important the economy is to you compared to the other issues. And when you're deciding how to vote on the economy, this is the summary. If you're sitting there going, I don't want to take the risk that things could go bad, vote in. If you're going, you know what, things are so bad right now, I'm willing to take the chance that it could get worse in the hope it could get better, vote out. Overall, what's most important is that you exercise your democratic right. You have your say. You do a risk analysis on the areas that matter to you, add in your gut instinct and your political views over the EU, you get yourself to the ballot box and you put an X somewhere. That's what counts.